what's up everyone, GameDad here, coming at you guys with part 2 of my Sega Master System collection. Now we're going to go through, check out what games are left on the list, and take a look at just what else the Sega Master System had to offer. Missile Defense 3D was released by Sega in 1987, and this is another one of the Sega Light Phaser games. So it is a light gun game whose sole purpose is to defend against a bunch of missiles that are flying at you. And they kind of look like little rocket ship race car kind of things, but it's essentially Duck Hunt or any of those kind of games, but just as missiles that are flying at you. I guess that's the 3D aspect, but I mean, it's alright, it's kind of fun. Up next we have Monopoly, released by Sega in 1988, and this is exactly what you would expect. It is a Monopoly video game. And this one, it doesn't play as well as a lot of the other Monopoly video games that are out there, but I mean, it's okay. It just seemed to have a lot of unnecessary setup. It was kind of to the point where I just wanted to pick out some computer players and just play the game, but it took forever to do so. Up next, we have The Ninja, released by Sega in 1986, and this game reminded me a lot of The Jackal on the NES, and just because it's this kind of top-down, vertically scrolling kind of game, but instead of playing as somebody who is driving around shooting stuff, you are playing as a ninja going around throwing stars and knives and stuff. And I mean, it's okay gameplay, but it's pretty simplistic at best. And here we have Outrun, released by Sega in 1987, and this entire franchise is just fantastic. One of the really cool things was how much music this game had in it. Obviously, in this video, I'm not playing any of it because of copyright issues, but the game is super fast-paced, it's really fun, and over time, as more and more games were released in the franchise, it definitely became more difficult, and they really added different, aspects to the overall gameplay, but this is one of the ones that started it all. Up next, we have Parlor Games, released by Sega in 1988, and this is exactly what it sounds like. It's a bunch of parlor games. You got darts, you got billiards, and you're just going around and playing some classic games you'd play essentially at a bar. I mean, they call it parlor games, but it's bar games. That's really all it is when you get down to it. And they play okay. Not the best game I played on the Master System, but it's not bad. Up next is Penguin Land, released by Sega in 1988. And this game gave me kind of like Ice Climber vibes, but in reverse. And what I mean by that is normally an ice climber, you're destroying blocks, you're moving up, things like that. This one, you're actually destroying blocks moving down, and the whole object is to get the egg to safety. So you can drop blocks on enemies, you can keep dropping the egg down further and further, but if the egg cracks, it levels over, and you gotta try again. And here we have Rambo, released by Sega in 1986, and this is just your typical shooter of the time. I mean, its overall gameplay is okay. I didn't really care for it all that much. I mean, it's kind of cool to have a couple different weapons, but all the bullets look like ping pong balls flying across the screen, so that was a little strange to me. And they have really weird ranges and stuff. You got to get close enough to where you'll just get obliterated by enemies before you can actually destroy them. Up next, we have Rampage, released by Activision in 1989, and this game is awesome on the Master System. The graphics are great. You have classic George, Lizzie, and Ralph. I always play as George just because, you know, classic King Kong style. And you go through, you play the game, and I gotta say, this game graphically is far superior to pretty much anything else that I've seen on the system. So, I mean, it's great to look at, it's fun gameplay, it's easy gameplay, and it's Rampage. Up next, we have Rescue Mission, released by Sega in 1988, and here we have another Light Phaser game. And this one is interesting. It's you're playing as like this medic or whatever, and you come through on these train tracks. You gotta shoot all the enemies before your guy gets taken out when he's trying to rescue soldiers and stuff. I don't know, strange concept, but essentially the same kind of thing. You just, you know, smash the bugs on the screen. Up next, we got Rocky, released by Sega in 1987, and unfortunately, I could not get this one to play on my Retron 5, no matter what I did, no matter how many times I cleaned it, polished the pins, nothing would work, but it is Rocky. It works on the actual Master System, and it's just like a punch-out kind of game. You know, you're getting in the ring, you're punching your opponent until you win, and then you move on to the next round. Up next, we have Shanghai, released by Sega in 1988, and from the title of this was not what I thought it would be. I thought it would be some sort of ninja game or something like the other games that are on this console, but it's actually Mahjong. So that was kind of cool. I didn't know they had a Mahjong game on the Sega Master System, and it plays fairly well. It's a little hard to see the symbols and stuff at times, but overall, I mean, the game is very simplistic in nature. If you know how to play Mahjong, you should have fun with this game. Up next is Wonder Boy in Monsterland, released by Sega in 1988. And this is a classic platforming series on this console. And I've heard it's much better in Japanese, but I don't speak Japanese, so I have the English version. And the game plays fairly well. Translations aren't as great as what I've heard, but overall, it's a classic platformer done Sega style, and the game is really fun to play. Up next is what I thought was Vigilante, but is actually Lord of the Sword, released by Sega in 1989. Apparently, somebody switched out the actual game that was in this cart. So I don't have Vigilante, I have Lord of the Sword. And this reminds me a lot of Zelda 2, but without an overworld. And I mean, it's okay. I just hate games with this much dialogue and very little gameplay. So, I mean, it was okay. So there it is, everyone. That is everything that is currently in my Sega Master System collection. Now, if you guys noticed any games during this video or last week's video that I just don't have in the collection, please let me know down in the comments below. I'm always looking for the next great game on one of my consoles. And while you're down there, please be sure to also hit those like and subscribe buttons, as well as that little notification bell so you get an alert every time I got a new video coming out. Now, as always, I'm GameDad. I thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you later.